Well, a few of you, I'll probably already know me, but for the majority who don't, my name is Jonathan Hansen with Exploring Overland and Overland Tech and Travel. I've been, Roseanne and I have been freelance writers and travelers and biologists for decades. And we started the Overland Expo together, which we recently sold. And before that, I helped start Overland Journal magazine. And I'm also the co-author of the Vehicle Dependent Expedition Guide, which is more or less the Bible of overland travel. It was originally written by a fellow named Tom Shepard in England, and he brought me on as co-author a few years ago. So, and what this series is about for now, we're going to be doing a lot more, but this is going to revolve around something that came to be known as the One-Case Toolkit. And that came about from a series of articles I did originally in Overland Journal, where I set myself the challenge of putting together a toolkit that would fit in one case that could be more or less easily lifted, but which would have everything in it that I thought I might need if I were, for some reason, nominated to be the head mechanic for a big expedition with numerous vehicles that might be both metric and SAE, and I would have to fix anything that went wrong with whatever was in this kit. And I stress that I'm not the guy to be that mechanic, but I decided to experiment with this kit and see what would happen. I more or less at random picked a Pelican 1550 case, and over the course of a couple of years, experimented putting things in, taking things out, and trying to use nothing but that kit to do all the repairs I had to do on my vehicles and our friends' vehicles. And after that couple of years, I got it down to basically 60 pounds worth of tools that were pretty much what I thought they would be. Just I could do just about anything on either an American or a foreign vehicle that is metric or SAE, from changing a windshield wiper blade to pulling a transmission. So from there, we've gone on to sort of evaluate individual components of it. And that's what the two previous videos are. This one's going to be more about tool packaging and containers. So to start, I think Roseanne's going to run a short video of me unpacking the One-Case kit, just so you'll be able to see, those of you who haven't, what was in it. And I'll try to narrate, if I can keep up, what the individual components are. And then we'll start talking about everything I have piled on this table behind me. Is that ready to queue up? So that's the Pelican 1550 case that you see, in which I managed to package everything. And opening up, you'll see various components there. First is a set of snap ring pliers, which is basically an irreplaceable tool. Then there's a roll of miscellaneous punches and chisels, box cutters, things like that. Underneath there is a tool roll, a wrench roll, which I'll be showing you later. That'll be in this segment. Combination wrenches. Then there's a big 18-inch snap-on combination breaker bar and ratchet, which is one of my favorite tools. I've talked about that before, I think in the previous videos. A hammer pry bar coming up, so that I don't use screwdrivers for what they're not intended. Another hammer, I'm going to mention that hammer today because it's in one of the kits I have. And then here is a Focom 1/2-inch socket and ratchet set for the big stuff. And there is the Britool 3/8-inch socket and ratchet set, which sadly is no longer made. And then last couple of things. Pliers, vice grips, hemostats. And finally, screwdrivers. And a hacksaw. Roseanne, I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, someone's clear audio.
I used the Pelican case in order to, in some way, limit the number of tools I could carry, because as I said, it got to 60 pounds, which is pretty up there in terms of being easily able to manage it. But inside, I wanted to make sure that everything was organized well. And my default way to do that is with tool rolls. And that's 90% of what I'm going to be talking about today is tool rolls. And the reason for that is threefold. I like tool rolls because, first of all, they organize things very well, separate into each kind of tool you need. They keep the tools within the roll organized so that your sockets are all in line and your screwdrivers are in order as terms of standard or Phillips. They also help keep the tools in better condition, because when those are rolled, the tools can't rattle against each other. And I really hate having tools wear just from rattling. And I also, of course, don't like the noise of rattling. So that case that you saw, that One-Case Toolkit, I could strap that in my FJ40 in the back, which is not the quietest or easy riding vehicle. And it made no noise because everything was so well secured in there. So that's another reason I like tool rolls. And also they're easy to pull out when you just need one set of tools and you don't need the whole thing, and you can take it somewhere or loan it if you just want to loan someone your 3/8 inch set. So I'm going to start with a couple of things that are good but cheap, a couple of things that were failures, and then talk about some current products that I've gotten recently that I think are really, really superb. I'm going to switch over to the second camera, which is sort of overhead, and should be able to see everything I'm laying out. And
yep,
there.
That looks good.
As long as it focuses.
It will. That looks really good.
Great. So here's a lot of you have probably seen these, and this is my basic. If you can't afford anything else, it's called Bucket Boss. It was a company that started in the 1980s, literally making tool compartments that fit in 5-gallon plastic buckets, and then they expanded to do tool rolls and things. These tool rolls they're incredibly affordable. This is less than $20. It's got plenty of slots for tools. It's got a couple of pockets over on the edge for sockets or things that won't fit in the slots. Overall, it works really well. The quality, it's a made in China product. The stitching on it is like maybe 4 to the inch. So it's inexpensive stitching. I know someone who drove the length of Africa with 2 of these rolls and they held up just fine. I had one a few years ago that I was using basically every day for jobs, and it started to come apart in 6 months, although I managed to keep it together with string and various other bits. So I hesitate to recommend them, but if you really can't afford anything else, these do fine. And they do the same function as the $130 tool rolls I have in the background. They keep the tools organized. They keep them from rattling. It's easy to move around, easy to loan to someone if you need to. So in terms of function, it works just fine. It's also a really good idea to do what I do and just haunt eBay for various random things that come up. I'm constantly on eBay, and I'll just type in tool roll and see what comes up. And 99% of it is garbage, but every once in a while I'll make a score, like this one, which I got a few years ago. Which I picked up for I think $10, is actually a snap-on wrench roll, which is enormous. It holds more wrenches than any other wrench roll I've ever had in my life. I think I could put everything from a 7 to a 32 millimeter wrench in here, each in its own pocket. And not only that, but it has this enormous flap, which is a great place to lay out the tool when you're not using them, so they don't get lost in the dirt. So that was a great score, and the fact that it's branded Snap-on is just kind of a twee little bonus. So good thing to look for. I've never seen another one of these, so I don't know if you'll find one, but it's just an example of what you might find. Then here's an example of what I consider a complete failure. So when we were in Australia and buying tools there for the Land Cruiser that we bought, I was trying to find tool rolls to carry stuff there and found this one made there. You don't need to worry about the brand because you don't want one of these. You wouldn't be able to find it anyway. But the problem with this one, and this is in common with other tool rolls I've seen, it's plenty big, but if you look, all the pockets are huge. They're all enormous. Each one of these pockets would fit a full-size pair of channel lock pliers or a big-ass wrench. And as a result, it doesn't really organize tools as well as it ought to. There's only a couple of smaller slots down at the end. It's perfectly well made, but I just found that I did use it, but I was stuffing I had to stuff 4 or 5 wrenches in each pocket in order to get enough stuff into the whole tool roll for it to work. It has a nice big flap for setting tools on when it's lying on the ground. But otherwise it just didn't work very well. The other problem is that the whole outside of it has this massive strip of Velcro in order to, when you roll it up, the idea is that no matter how full it is, the straps will still be able to catch on the Velcro, and that's fine. But all that Velcro just got filthy and collected debris, and when Velcro does that, it just stops working. I had to blow this and hose this, pressure wash this thing out to get it to be clean. And that was just to show it to you because I just store this thing now. I don't use it for anything anymore. So that was a fail. Others have been around. This was a roll that we bought in Africa. This is from a company called Sandstorm. Really nice stuff. They make seat covers for expedition vehicles there, and they make very twee luggage now. But this was just a nice canvas roll that we bought on site that was inexpensive and worked really well. Foolproof because there's no Velcro. It's just got the old D-rings and straps, which aren't the quickest to use, but which will never go bad. So that's a good consideration. So what I'm going to look at now is some products from the US available here that I've found were really good. I want to start out with ATC, the Adventure Tool Company. They started out just a few years ago. I think they debuted their stuff at the Overland Expo, what, Roseanne, 5-6 years ago, maybe? And it's all made in the US, which I think is really nice. And their basic line is also all made of oiled cotton canvas, which I find really nice. It's very durable. It has a smell like old Army surplus equipment. Extremely well made. The stitching on this is just, there's no comparison between this and something like that Bucket Boss tool roll that I showed. So this is their wrench roll, and it folds out like so. Again, it's got a big flap for setting stuff on. It has enough slots to go up to here all the way to a 22 millimeter wrench. I put the two smallest ones and the small one. So very well organized, perfectly sized. And behind here is a full size flap that goes the whole way. So I'm actually able to put a couple of the larger wrenches back in there. And even though they're not held in by any slot, once the thing's rolled up, they're perfectly secure and don't rub against anything else. So this is one of the best rolls I've seen for treating your wrenches really well, because they don't come into contact with each other. They don't rattle. The fabric is nice on it. It works really well. And obviously this could be used for other things besides wrenches if you wanted to, but it makes one of the best wrench rolls I've ever seen. The other nice thing is that the slots are long enough for the longer handled wrenches, which a couple of the tool rolls we'll see later aren't. Not all of them have enough room for these nice long handled wrenches that give you more leverage. So that's one of their best products, and Roseanne's going to put up a link and prices and everything on this later.
Actually, I already put the link up, Jonathan.
Oh, okay. If I could change anything about the ATC stuff, is that they tend to use Fastex buckles on their for their closures, and I sort of have a love-hate relationship with Fastex buckles. They work great when they're new, but eventually I always am breaking off a tong or two and failing, which is okay when you can replace them. But when one of the buckles is sewn in, like this one, if something breaks, then if this part breaks, then it's really, really tough to replace. So I prefer just ties to Fastex buckles, or another type of fastener that I'll show you later. That's a small complaint. It also makes the roll a little more bulky. This would lie pretty flat except for those bulky buckles, but they do tighten well, and so in terms of function, they're just fine until you snap one. That's a really nice set and fairly compact to hold wrenches from, what do I have in here, 7mm all the way to 27, I think. And then another,
we put the links and the pricing in the chat, but folks, I will also be putting these on the website with the recording of this session, so you don't have to save everything if you're not inclined right now to save everything from the chat.
Great. So this is another ATC product, again made in Colorado, like all their equipment. This is called their shop roll. Again, it's Velcro fastened. This is one they made with a bright orange Cordura lining. You can get it with or without this lining, and it's kind of shocking to look at first, but it really stands out and makes the tools stand out as well if it's lying on the ground. So the way this is laid out is pretty versatile. It's got two really large zippered pouches on either side. And when I deployed this to test it, what I did was put my socket ratchet set on one side, and all my screwdrivers in the other. And then what you see here, wrenches and hammers and pliers in the middle. There's also this whole flap that goes over is a gigantic zippered compartment, which would enable you, just like you saw me do with the wrench roll, you could put something else in there this way, and then when it was rolled up with everything else, it would be secured. This would also hold gloves or a ground sheet for working on undercars. You could do a lot with that. So that holds a fair amount of tools, a couple of these, and you could do a pretty comprehensive toolkit. What I wanted to mention, this is kind of a segue, is this hammer, because this is from a bicycle tool company called Park Tool. And Park Tool is sort of the Snap-on, if you will, of bicycle tool companies. When you go to bicycle shops, they'll usually have a lot of blue Park tools in their rack. But I used to carry two hammers, a small sledge for beating on stuff that I wanted to hurt, as it were, and then a no bounce hammer for beating on stuff that I didn't want to hurt. And I've since replaced both of those with this one. They make this plastic faced hammer, and of course this is replaceable with a nice flat bang it hammer on the other side and a fiberglass handle. And so now I actually save some weight by having this as my only hammer. They make two sizes of it as well. There's a cute little one that goes with it. This is the bigger one is the one that I leave in my automotive kit, but they do have a smaller one for more delicate tasks. Anyway, Park Tool has a lot of really nice stuff for pretty good prices. I use their needle nose pliers that I like a lot. I like them as well as some of the German ones. So it's a good company to look up on the web and just browse around for stuff you might like. So I think that's it for that one. Again, once this is folded up like that with your sockets or whatever you want to put in there and screwdrivers in there, then the whole big flap goes over and it folds back up. Again, Fastex buckles. I might try to talk them into something else. So now I'm going to switch, and this is something that's fairly new. The company's been around for a while. Again, they sort of debuted at the Overland Expo, Step 22 gear. And this is a tool roll called the Pelican that they just came out with not too long ago. And I'm super impressed with this kit. Now, I will show you why. It's got a flap here, which you open by pulling on this small toggle here. To snug it up, you pull both like that. To loosen it, you just pull on that one. And then basically you just turn it this way and dump out this set of pouches. And once you've done that, the bit on the end here that covered it all sort of serves as a little bit of a kind of a garage to put. You can put parts in there that you've taken off or tools that you're not using just to keep them out of the dirt. And then at the other end, there are 3 pouches that are interchangeable. They're Velcroed in so they can come out, and 1 that's permanent, plus these 2 zipper bits on the end. This end here is a wrench roll, and I'm going to pull it off so that I can open it up. And this has the kind of hook I prefer. That's just a metal hook with a nylon loop. It's completely flat. I would love to talk ATC into using these on their wrench rolls. Anyway, completely foolproof, can't possibly break. When you open it up, there's a small pouch there for small wrenches, and bigger one on the other end for big wrenches. So they can't fall out. They're well contained. Someone wants to borrow your wrenches, you can just pull this out of the kit and hand them the roll instead of handing them the whole Pelican toolkit. The only thing I will say about this is that it doesn't like really long handled wrenches. My snap-on wrenches that I have are the longer handled models, and I can't use some of these slots because these were designed more for, these are my old Craftsman sort of standard length handles, and they fit fine. So beware of that. It's not friendly to long handled wrenches. Otherwise, really nice. And you could go, I've got it up to 21 millimeter here, and I've still got 4 slots left. And there are a couple of, one small one left as well. So really nice, rolls up again, like so. And that hook is super easy to use. So with the kit back, normally this Velcro's there, but if you don't want it to be Velcroed, the company gives you these strips to block off the Velcro, and then it just fits in there loosely. You don't have to have it stuck in if you don't want to. And you can do that with the other 2 pouches that also come out. So it's your choice whether you want them Velcroed in or not. But it's nice to have the option. It makes all kinds of noise. And since this Velcro is on the inside of the roll, it's not as inclined to get dirty as Velcro on the outside. So I like the way they did that. I really like the hook there. Then they have couple of different kinds of pouches. There's one with a sort of a see-through top there, which doesn't really work. It's fairly hard to see what's inside there. I prefer just the closed ones. And besides, they also give you Velcro strips of synthetic leather to write what's on the inside. So that really works better. Anyway, the way I set this one up here is essentially as my fastener tightening and loosening kit. So there's wrenches in there. This pouch here is big enough to hold a really comprehensive 3/8 inch socket set with standard and deep sockets, plus a ratchet, plus a bunch of extensions. And there's still room. I could stuff more in there than I have, but it's nice that a pretty comprehensive set fits in there and there's still room. And I want to segue here for a moment, because one of the questions that I got in advance was someone who obviously knows me asking if I had any suggestions for accessories that don't cost too much. Clearly this person is aware of stuff I usually get. Anyway, this is what I wanted to show, because these are the best socket rails I've ever found for using in tool pouches. This is on Amazon, and I think this is up on the link as well. They're called Cassoman, I think, socket rails.
I just put that in the chat.
Okay, so the brilliant thing about these is they're ABS, and the end cap comes off, and if it's too long, which as they were, you just pull the end cap off and cut them to length. So I cut the end off one of these, which still took all my 3/8 inch sockets from 9mm up to 19mm, and pop the end back on, and then it fits perfectly inside. And I did the same thing with this one and the deep sockets. So holds them really securely, customizable length, keeps the sockets organized by size, so you can instantly get the right one. And I think six of these rails for 2 each of 1/4 inch and 3/8 and 1/2 inch was like $20. So
that is a record for Jonathan tool pricing.
That's a severely cheap record for me for tool pricing, and I love them. They're fantastic. I'll probably get some more just because it works so well. So,
Jonathan, we had a question about what material as long as you're on this, the Step 22 are made from.
Oh, Step 22 is Cordura, and then a coated material on the outside, which is really nice because it doesn't pick up dirt. I'm not exactly sure what they coat this with, but it's super heavy duty, and the whole outside is fairly slick vinyl coating, so it doesn't pick up any dirt as it would if the outside were just the Cordura. So there's a complete 3/8 inch ratchet set, and if someone asks you to borrow your ratchet set, pull it off and hand them that instead of the whole kit, which is really nice. And then when you put it back on, it's Velcro back in. So next to that, I put, again, this pouch was big enough to hold a 1/2 inch, pretty comprehensive 1/2 inch set from, I think, 17mm all the way up to a 32mm socket, plus a ratchet, plus extensions. And again, there's still room left, but it's nice and organized. And then at the end here, I put pliers. Plenty of room for water pump pliers, 2 pairs of those, smaller ones, needle nose pliers, and more room left. So really nice. And along those lines, I would say if you were doing this, setting up the way I did, I would probably use these end pouches for something like hex bits or Torx bits, or if you wanted to some smaller like hemostats or something in the end. So super versatile. And if you want to, you can completely customize it. For example, you could buy 2 more wrench rolls and convert this thing into a really comprehensive wrench set if you wanted to have SAE wrenches along with you, as well as metric wrenches. or mix and match any way you want. You could leave the wrench roll out and put another one of the pouches in if you wanted to as well. When you're using it, if you don't want to use the little garage on the end and you want to pick it up and carry it somewhere quick, you can roll this up like so. And there's another one of the little metal hooks that secures that. And then there's a handle on the outside and a handle here, and you just pick it up like so. And you don't have to roll the whole thing up if you're just going to carry it across the parking lot or something, get somewhere else. So they obviously put a lot of thought into this thing, and I really like the way it, how versatile it is, and the quality of the construction is top notch. Was one other thing I like about it. So once you roll it up, pop the garage back over it, just do that, and then you can pull the cords to just cinch that up. And that's not designed to be a compression sack, but just to snug it up. So the other thing I like about this is with my original Pelican 1550 case that I use, the pangolin roll fits crosswise just perfectly like so. So I could do one of those there, and another one would fit on the other side with room in the middle for more pouches or other kinds of tools. And there'd still be room in here to put breaker bars or some longer things that wouldn't fit crosswise. And I'm thinking that setup would make a really nice sort of new version of the One-Case kit with just two basic modules inside, and then odds and ends and pouches in the middle. Really well organized and super strong and super quiet. So, and then Step 22 also sent me this cool thing that they're making now. This is called a Stingray, and what it is a rigid-sided but completely collapsible storage box. It will collapse down to about, I don't know, a fifth of this height. So you could stack probably 4 or 5 of these unassembled on top of each other in this space. And then there are rigid panels inside. There's a divider that you can take out and put crosswise if you want to. This is just the standard duty one, so I wouldn't put tools in here. What I think something like this would be nice for example, if you were on a long remote trip and you had extra food, pack your extra food in here, and once the food's eaten, you can collapse the box and it won't take up space anymore. They are going to make a more heavy duty one of this same size with more rigid panels that might be worth looking at for either holding tool rolls or recovery gear. And then they're going to make a half-size one as well. So really clever idea that I think works really well. This came obviously flat, and it was completely intuitive to assemble. It's just little flaps with Velcro on the side, and then handles everywhere to carry it either upright or on the side. And again, one of their synthetic patches on the side to put what's in it. Step 20.
Jonathan, question, can that be stowed sideways and collapsed?
Stowed sideways and collapsed?
Yes.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. We'll
I meant shown sideways and collapsed.
Oh, can you show it? Sorry, I misread it. Can you turn it on its side, please?
Just so we can get a look at what it looks like in the collapsed form.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hold it still for a minute because there's some lag. No, hold it still for a minute because there's some lag time.
Like there?
Yeah, just hold it. Don't move it because of the video lag.
Okay.
There's a lot of bandwidth use. I think the entire world is streaming the Super Bowl. I think our bandwidth resources are low right now.
I won't take this apart because it would probably take me several minutes to Velcro, but it's very easy, and as I said, intuitive, and I think it'll be a really versatile thing. I'm not sure exactly what use I'll put to it yet, but I like it. And then I actually skipped something on ATC, the Adventure Tool Company. And that's because it's brand new. They sent this. This isn't even on their website yet, but it looks like something that's going to be useful. And this is a break from tradition for them. This is super heavy duty Cordura, still made in the US, but it has a series of zipped pouches on the inside that looks to me like they'd be really nice for recovery gear. I'm thinking maybe snatch straps and winch lines and shackles would fit in there really nicely. I haven't even played with it yet, but like all their stuff, it's super well made and all heavy duty zippers. And I think it comes in a couple of sizes. So I'll probably be figuring out something to do with it and writing it up more later. It's got rings on it for carrying with a strap, and kind of cool.
What is its name again? Did you say
this is
that?
called their Adventure Pack, and it's not even on the website yet, but it should show up soon. But the quality of this is superb. I mean, the stitching, this reminds me of the finest backpacking gear that I used to review for Outside Magazine. You know, just super stitching, not a raw seam edge anywhere. Everything's bound. Nice bright interior, so you get a lot of contrast. Big zipper pulls and big fat coil zippers. So really super construction. So as soon as I figure out something to do with it, I'll write a review about it. I'm not sure I even got a price on this. It's so new. So last thing I'm going to talk about is Blue Ridge gear, which Roseanne and I are very familiar with. They did a lot of our goodie bags for the Overland Expo, and this bag's actually been out for quite a while. I don't have it filled right now, but they sort of pioneered the modular inside construction, and this is obviously, as you can see, very similar in a way to the pangolin roll from step 22. But again, the individual pouches lays completely flat, and when I had this filled, I found that it would take quite a bit of tools, complete ratchet sets, wrenches up to a certain length, although not huge. And then its stowage is different since it's sort of a briefcase style. It kind of stows on its edge instead of, it doesn't take up a lot of floor space, but stands up taller. And related to this is this, which is their recovery bag. And this one doesn't open all the way, so it doesn't lay flat. And the reason is because it's designed to hold heavy recovery gear. 7P sells their recovery kit in this bag. And it's got inside pouches, loose pouches for extensions, for winch lines, and then a big area on the bottom for shackles and soft shackles and recovery rings.
Is that the 7P recovery kit that you're showing right there?
Yes, yeah. And I like it because it takes up less floor space than a lot of your standard, like the worn recovery kit bags. Just a little bit easier to handle, a little bit easier to stow, and very, very easy to carry, and again, super strong. So that is all that I have. I went through that pretty quickly.
Great. Great. We've got some questions. Back a little farther back, someone asked how you label your tool rolls and bags so you know what's in them. I saw that the step 22 cleverly includes labels, but what else do you use?
Right. The step 22 labels are great, and they're as I said, they're synthetic leather. And I was in the middle of mentioning something and got cut off. And I'm not sure why, but I wanted to mention that step 22 belongs to the 1% for the Planet program, which was started by Yvonne Chenard. So 1% of all their profits are donated to conservation causes, which I think is laudable of them. Anyway, to get back to the question, yes. So they have the synthetic leather strips that Velcro on. Another really good idea, if you have tool rolls with Velcro on them, ATC has little military style strips that are pre-embroidered with, I think they've got 20 or 30 different ones. They're anything you could possibly have, from electrical supplies to wrenches, snap ratchets, everything. So if you've got, even if it's not an ATC tool roll, if it's got Velcro strips on it, you can buy their strips individually for just exactly what you want. And that works really well. And then finally, the other thing that I found that works really well, if you go online and Google custom dog tags, I think works. There are companies that make just like regular old GI dog tags, except they're embossed with whatever you want on them. And they're great because they're indestructible. The lettering is embossed, so it can't wear off. And it just comes on one of the little like snap link chains, so that if your tool roll it has a handle or any kind of loop on it, you just loop that dog tag through it. I've got some of those and they work great. They're not quite as visible as a big strip of Velcro with big printing on it, but they still work really well.
Great. So how do you choose whether to go with the soft tool bags or a harder case? What's your parameters? Someone asked, when does it make sense to stay with a hard case versus soft?
Well, personally, I like both. I like to have my tools in rolls, and then I like to have the rolls inside a hard case. The reason for that being is all the advantages that I mentioned of the rolls. And then the advantage of then putting them in a hard case is that the hard case is completely dust proof. And if it's a Pelican case, completely waterproof. It doesn't matter if it gets rained on, it certainly won't get any dust inside. And it's really easy and secure to both lock and strap down. So I like having two soft cases inside a hard case. That's my preferred way to do tools. And that's the way I've done it for forever. It doesn't have to be a Pelican case. The smaller Zarges boxes, the aluminum boxes work really well. And the Wolf Pack, if you're familiar with the Wolf Pack, the old South African ammo boxes that Front Runner sells, are really nice too. And that's a nice size for just about the right size for a comprehensive toolkit. And they're rainproof. They're not completely dust proof, but they will shed water. So they work really well too.
Great.
If that helps.
I'm seeing if I can look up the Front Runner link. Hang on. Any other questions? Please put in. Oh, how does the Blue Ridge tool bag fit in the Pelican case?
It doesn't. That's not a fit. You'd need a Pelican case. If I had designed the One-Case Toolkit around the Blue Ridge, I would have gotten a different size Pelican, slightly shorter and wider, and then that kit would have fit in. It was just sheer luck that the 1550, which I've had forever, happens to fit the pangolin roll, as you saw, sideways, just perfect. I got this Pelican case before I even knew about the Blue Ridge stuff, so I didn't orient it to putting those in.
I think you just said, I was looking up something online, but someone says, but the pouches will fit and you can buy them separately in different sizes.
Yes. Yeah, you
I
can
think
buy
you just said
pouches
that.
separately. Yes, that's true. Sorry. Also, step 22 sells all those pouches individually. You can buy the tool roll or the wrench roll separately, the pouches separately, so you can mix and match.
Could you ostensibly put your own Velcro in the 1550 and stick those pouches around the perimeter, for example?
No. And the reason I say that is because I've tried glue on Velcro tape in the past, and I've never found Velcro tape that lasts glued to plastic. It always comes off eventually. Mm-hmm. So I would say that probably wouldn't work. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any more modern glues these days that would, because yeah, that's a lot of weight and it's going to be moving around.
Right. Anyway, if normally the Pelican case is full enough of stuff, certainly if you put 2 of the pangolin rolls inside and some more pouches, you don't need Velcro. It's not going to go anywhere.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? I think we've gone through, we got labels. You covered compare and contrast tool rolls designed with individual slots versus the bigger slots. You don't like the bigger slots. That was another question.
Oh, that's true. You saw, if you remember the reject case from Australia, yeah, that one, clearly those pouches were just way too big, too many big pouches. It's okay to have a few, but if you have any kind of an idea of what tools you want to put in, I think a pretty short glance at a tool roll will tell you whether they'll work or not. Even the Bucket Boss roll, those slots were very well spaced and sized, I thought, for a variety of tools. Best thing, of course, would be a custom sewer make one for your very own kit, but.
Ironically, it's much easier to do that in the third world than it is here.
Yes.
We've found that in Africa, in Nairobi or Arusha, anywhere pretty much there's safari business, you can find a fundi to sew up custom things for you really fast and really well. But maybe that's a good reason to, once you're overlanding, plan on something like that. Dave Thumb recommended or suggested, maybe if you wanted to do Velcro in your hard case, you could rivet it on, although that would render your hard case not waterproof anymore unless you really sealed the heck out of those rivets. But yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah, that would work.
And then have you ever looked at the Carhartt tool rolls?
No, I've seen them and they look nice. They look to me like a step up from the Bucket Boss, I'd say, but I don't have one, so I can't comment on them. But
another one for Jonathan to order.
Research. Yeah, they do look like it, just what I've seen online. They look like a step up from the Bucket Boss, so it might be worth looking into.
Great.
Cool.
Great. Well, let's. I'm going to go to gallery view here. If anyone wants to chime in verbally, we're kind of nearing the end. Just wave your hand and turn on your video, wave your hand if you want to say something. Mike, go ahead and unmute yourself and I'll pin you if you want to ask.
No, actually, I
Great.
was actually.
You're just waving? Okay.
I will say that this has been very informative as always. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, of course.
You're welcome.
Of course.
Put poor Mike on the spot.
Someone's waving. Don's waving.
Okay, Don.
You might be waving.
Hey, Jonathan, you mentioned a ground cloth earlier. It's a little bit off topic, but what's some of your thinking around a ground cloth to keep as part of a tool kit?
I think it's a great idea, and I have something that I wish I could find again. It's a military surplus canvas soft litter. In other words, it's a first aid thing for carrying a person that rolls up but then it rolls out flat to about the size of a litter, and it's got 3 heavy-duty handles on either side. And I've used that for laying out tools on, and I've used it for laying under vehicles to work on because it's human sized. It works fantastic, and that's the only one I've ever seen. So the other thing I've thought about doing is you can buy generic tent footprints, you know, to protect the underside of your backpacking tent that are just polyurethane coated nylon, maybe 4 feet by 6 feet or 8 feet. I think one of those would work really well. And it would easily fold up inside like the flap of the ATC kit, you know, where they give you that big long pouch. It would drop right in there. So that would work too. How about you? Have you found anything different?
No, I haven't found anything. It's usually just one of the cheap plastic tarps, the woven slit film polypropylene tarps and crap like that. So no, I have not found a good solution to this.
Always easy to go with the polyethylene tarp, but God, I hate those things.
I spent most of my career around the paper industry, and if I have a chance, I'm going to try to get some of the fabric they use on paper machines to dry the sheet, which is dense but porous. And that way, sand and dirt and everything would fall through it, and yet it would still provide some sort of barrier between that. So that's my idea of trying a paper machine felt when I can get a piece of scrap of one of those.
Oh, that would be awesome. Sounds like a great idea.
They make a good ground cloth too.
Yeah.
I haven't used one yet myself, but Max Custom Tie Downs makes a utility mat that's supposedly pretty good. Oh,
that's good to know.
There's some other suggestions in the chat too. Casey says a climbing rope bag, you know, usually has integrated ground cloths that roll out of the roll.
Oh, that's right. Nice one.
So, and you could use it to store, you know, those pesky cinch straps that turn into octopus spaghetti all over your truck.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Nice. Surplus sailcloth, Tyvek, Rescue Essentials Quick Litter. Ooh.
Oh,
there's a link there right now. So I'll be saving these things from the chat and putting them on the website. So you'll be getting a link. We are, of course, recording this. And so
I've got a question.
Yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff coming.
Sure.
Custom titles. Okay, yes. Go ahead and shoot. Who's speaking?
Mark,
great. I was looking for you so I can pin you.
Oh.
He was right there.
There you are. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Really appreciate your time on all this. It's been extremely helpful. But in regard to the one-box toolkit, I noticed in your video that your socket sets you keep in the stock original case. When do you do that versus keeping them in the tool roll?
That's a great question, and here's my parameter for that. The reason I like to keep my socket and ratchet sets when I can is in their original blow molded box is for one really good reason is I'm a terrible dribbler of tools. I tend to leave things on top of tires and on fenders. And when I keep my ratchet and socket set in their original blow molded box with a slot for every single thing, it's possible for me to tell at a glance if I've screwed up and left something somewhere. So I like that. Also, obviously, the organization is really nice. Clearly, that takes up more space than cramming them all on a socket rail and in a pouch. So it depends on, if I were trying to go really lightweight, I'd take them out of there, put them on socket rails and put them in the pouches. If I have room and I can take my whole case, then I leave them in the original blow molded case, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah.
And do you keep your SAE separate in a different case than your metric?
Yes and no. My 3/8 inch kit, the one you saw in the red one in the original video, that is both SAE and metric. And that Britool set has become kind of legendary because that is the best ratchet and socket set I have ever seen in my life, and they don't make it anymore. And if I would have known that at the time, I would have taken out a loan and bought 100 of them and sold them. But I've been looking ever since for one as good as that.
Okay.
Anyway, if you go on Overland Tech and Travel and look back at some of the tool articles, you'll see that thing laid out, and it's just glorious. It packs more stuff into a smaller space than anything I've ever seen. Really good quality.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark. All right, I think we're, looks like Mark also asked the question that Dan had, how do you use the tool rolls to separate metric from SAE when you need to carry both? So I think you've covered that more or less, yeah?
Yeah, also, if you notice, those socket rails that I had are different colors, and what I do with them, since all my tools in there are metric, I use the red for, well, it doesn't really matter because you can tell those apart visually. I just put my standard sockets on the red ones and my deep sockets on the blue one. But normally what people do is put metric sockets on one color and SAE sockets on the other. So you can tell just by looking into the bag, blue, that's the SAE, and pull it out. So that's a good way to separate them inside a tool pouch.
Great.
Great. Well, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for coming and spending your Sunday afternoon with us. And if you've enjoyed this, we do have a Buy Jonathan a Pint fund. Contribute a few bucks so he can go wet his whistle after the program. Would be lovely. I put the link. Put the link in the chat for you. It's exploringoverland.com/pint fund. Thank you. And I think, Jonathan, you're the only one with the control for ending the meeting.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for coming. Email questions.